the Chicago Bulls have a major decision to make. Of course, we're waiting to see if and how much the Chicago Bulls are willing to pay Josh Giddey this season, that we fail to realize that it could be a Coby White decision next season that could be make or break for this Chicago Bulls backcourt. Hello, my name is Isaias Jackson Jr. Thank you guys so much for tuning into Bulls Digest. We get to get into all the news and notes with Coby White and free agency talks going into the 2026 season. And if he doesn't resign with the Chicago Bulls, especially after potentially paying Josh Giddey a whole lot of money this season, could we see Coby White potentially in another uniform? We're going to get into all of that and more. However, looking at the stats, 67.5% of you guys are not subscribed. 32.5% of you guys are. We appreciate you guys on both sides of the field. Look, looking outside, it's dark and gloomy. It's pretty much storming out here. It's a mess. So to make it sunshiny and happy over here, please hit the subscribe button. Don't forget to like and share. And thank you guys so much for tuning into Bulls Digest. The Bulls' former lottery pick advised to test free agency. Well, I'm getting chills just reading that right there because, of course, getting into Coby White. Over the past 2 seasons, Coby White has emerged as a core part of the Chicago Bulls rotation. The former lottery pick has thrived in a larger offensive role and ended the 2024-25 season with a career-high average of 20 points per game. White is eligible for a contract extension this summer. However, Joe Cowley of the Chicago Sun-Times believe White will be better served by standing pat and testing the free agency market in 2026, which obviously I think we all could agree would be the best bet for Coby White, especially if he goes on to have an amazing season this year as he had going into the tail end of last. So, just continuing from here. Oops, there it goes. I got too ahead of myself there. But White is eligible to sign a 4-year, $89 million extension in July, but would be better served to bet on himself and get a much better payday as an unrestricted free agent after next season. Kylie wrote that payday can make him a $40 million per year player, which is just gut-wrenching, which he deserves. Like, you got to give it to Coby White. The work that he's done, the progression that we've seen from Coby White has been fun to watch. However, the Chicago Bulls having to open up their pockets going back to back from Josh Giddey to Coby White obviously is definitely going to hurt a little bit, and you're going to see the roster shed a little bit to pertain the money to keep these guys as well. So, of course, waiting for free agency is a clever play for White. He could potentially double his earning potential. However, the Bulls should be dead set against that scenario playing out. A future backcourt of Josh Giddey and White has a significant potential. Allowing White to test free agency could hinder Chicago's chances of building around the guard duo long term. After all, other teams could easily swoop in with an enticing offer, and I feel like that's obvious right there. That's the scariest part about this whole thing. We have, if this is pretty much set in stone, if Coby White doesn't want to agree to sign the 4-year, $89 million deal, then yeah, you're definitely going to get a whole lot more money testing your value, seeing what your value is in the open market, seeing somebody like the Brooklyn Nets or just giving out random teams out there, just the Brooklyn Nets, a team like the just like the Washington Wizards, just a team that's going to go out there and drop the bag for Coby White to give him an enticing deal, something way more than 4-year, $89 million, as he just seen before, pretty much doubling your salary there without re-signing with the Chicago Bulls. However, testing your free agency out in the open market is definitely going to hinder the Chicago Bulls a whole lot because they're going to be at a limit. You're already giving Josh Giddey a whole lot of money. You still got rookies that are going to come in on the forefront. It just depends on who you have on your roster for this time being. Who are you going to have to replace Nikola Vucevic? Is it going to be a rookie or is it going to be a veteran that you're grabbing out in free agency that's going to also add to the salary cap as well? It's a lot of things. And then, of course, you have Patrick Williams. Are you going to hold on to Patrick Williams? Are you going to keep that $90 million on the books too for Patrick Williams long term? Just multiple things that's going to go on for the Chicago Bulls in terms of the salary cap and in terms of saving money to keep these guys, and also drop a bag for guys like a Josh Giddey and for guys like a Coby White as well. But even then, nevertheless, the Bulls may have little choice but to accept White's decision, especially given his current value around the league. And look, $40 million per year player. That's insane amount. And of course, you're already pretty much going to hand that off to Josh Giddey right there, because he's looking at a range of the 25 to 30. Hopefully you're trying to get that to a 22, a 20, which is still a buku amount of money. But with Coby White himself, he's already paid his dues. He's already shown you that he's a high caliber player, and he's also fun to watch. And he could give your team some wins. Now, can he lead your team to a championship? No, we haven't seen that just yet from Coby White. So, obviously, but still, you got to put the money on the table for the man from what you've seen from him so far, the progression and the growth and the potential from what you're going to get from him as well. So, of course, the harsh conditions of restricted free agency is, of course, limiting the market that could help the Chicago Bulls. Now, limiting the market is just mainly looking at what they can do with Josh Giddey and the Josh Giddey contract that they're hoping that he would accept as well. Because Josh Giddey here, by allowing the market to dictate Giddey's next contract, the Bulls could save themselves millions. In a recent article on the 3rd April newsletter, of course, we talked about Yossi Gosselin as well, detailing the Bulls could keep their star player on a contract worth roughly $20 million a year, a quote that we brought up before, but here goes a longer extended version of it. The harsh conditions of restricted free agency and the lack of offers that may come with it could get the Bulls to offer him something in the low $20 million annual range. An annual salary in the $25 million range could be his ceiling and ultimately a fair compromise. But whatever happens, Chicago will likely want to keep both Giddey and White. The duo has proven that they can bring the best out of each other. It's logical to build around the pairing rather than having to find a replacement for White, who may or may not click next to Giddey. Therefore, the Bulls have 2 summers of difficult negotiations ahead. And yeah, right now at this point in time, I think you do the best thing you can possible to keep the likes of a Josh Giddey and a Coby White. They've already showed you that they are the future of your franchise, especially since they picked up the play after the All-Star break. And hell, even during the season started, even when both guys were a little shaggy here and there, you still saw, the diamond in the rough. You still saw growth, and you still saw there was some development there. Josh Giddey is still new to the Chicago Bulls. Coby White is still playing there. At the time, Zach Lavine was still there. How is this team going to mesh? How is this team going to gel? Zach Lavine gets the boot. He gets traded to Sacramento. What are we going to do now? Coby White has to pick up the play, and he does. And so you're seeing Josh Giddey and Coby White. I feel like this pairing, this tandem, of course, as we've all seen before, is going to work out so well. Coby, of course, I would love to see off ball. I don't want to see Coby White pretty much. I don't trust Coby White handling the ball, kind of playing the point guard role. Say if you do lose the likes of Josh Giddey, which I think is highly unlikely. However, you lose the likes of Coby White, I do think you still keep the facilitating and the offensive threat that you have with Josh Giddey. But of course, it depends on who you have on this offense, because Patrick Williams cannot hold up on his own. Montes Buzelis, as a great of a first season he's had, what is his sophomore season going to like? We see a lot of sophomore seasons. Your rookie takes a little step back. Now, I'm not saying that they just pretty much just disappear into the forefront, but the rookie season is usually a whole lot better than what you're seeing in that sophomore season until you start seeing a whole lot more growth. What are you going to get from Montes Buzelis here and with Coby White as well? With Coby White, I think the best thing the Chicago Bulls should do is work around your salary to keep this man, to keep your guards, your duo guards on this team here to the best of your ability. Because even looking at the stats with Coby White, 20 points per game, 3 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 turnovers a game, which is nothing too insane. 45% from the field, and also 37% from 3-point range as well. 6'5", shooting guard, 25 years old, and is just such a full energy guy. He's just running all over the place, and he's not necessarily like a Steph Curry when you see Steph Curry off ball, just pretty much running around like a lunatic. But Coby White, I think he comes pretty close. I think he is a whole lot of fun watching when he's on the floor, and I think the Chicago Bulls need to do their absolute best to keep this tandem, to keep this duo on the court and in a Chicago Bulls uniform. But what do you think? What should be the best bet for the Chicago Bulls? Do you think the Chicago Bulls can do better than Coby White, or do you think the Chicago Bulls needs to do everything in their power to make sure Coby White is re-signed, or do you think this is going to be a lost cause? Let me know in the comment section below. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I'll see you guys next time.